Welcome back to Lawrence, episode 9 of Leap Into Business, which is being filmed today at the NJCPA headquarters. AJ, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Lawrence,
Yep.
do you want to bring in our guest?
I do.
For Leap Into Business,
I do.
the official podcast of the School of Business at Lehman College, filmed off-site today. But don't forget, our School of Business here at Lehman is the only school of business at a public institution of higher education in the Bronx or Westchester. Excellent. Lawrence, want to bring in AJ?
Sure. And Sean gets excited about these things, AJ.
I do get excited.
I act like an accountant on TV, but I am nowhere.
Okay.
so I'm glad that we're on location. We love this set. I want to introduce AJ. She is the CEO and Executive Director of New Jersey Society of CPAs, former Executive Director of BKR International, over 20 years of global experience, board member at several Commerce and Industry Association in New Jersey, Together for Youth, a number of different board members, different places. Named one of the top 100 most influential people in accounting. This is where Sean gets,
I'm all jazzed up today here, Lawrence.
Honored as the number one on NJBiz Accounting Power 50 list. Recognized as an ROI influencer, people of color. She holds a master's in administration and policy from the University of Chicago, senior management program in business management at the University of Chicago School of Business, a certificate in management accounting for leaders, and she has a Bachelor of Science from Western Illinois University. Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, AJ.
Thank you.
I had to read that, AJ. I was going to try to
word
rehearse
for
it.
word, too.
No, because I was going to rehearse it last night. I was like, okay, can I get this thing? It was
condensed, more natural sounding?
Yeah,
that can be tough, though.
Yeah, I just was like, I'm just going to read this, and I don't want to mess
That's
it
okay.
up. So welcome, AJ. Welcome. Thank you for having us here, and welcome to our podcast. Our students will be excited to see this, so I'm glad to have you. I'm going to jump right into the first question.
Get in there.
Talk to us about how your education got you here.
I would say first is, a sense of curiosity, right? And I think it's so important to be determined in whatever you do. So, we talk about accounting, obviously, day in and day out, and we talk about the impact of accounting and financial professionals. But I think from a personal standpoint, when I meet with students, I always talk about, that determination to be a learner, a lifelong learner. So let your curiosity lead you so that you ask questions so that you're actively listening. Right. And I think that's such an important part of any journey, regardless of the discipline.
Just flat out curiosity. Just have that curiosity.
Yes, because that's going to spark innovation. It sparks discussion. It allows for brainstorming. It allows for a diversity of perspective, which I think is so critically important.
Right. Excellent.
And so, adding on to that, AJ, right? Obviously, there are any number of issues out there, facing the current graduates in the accounting world.
Yes.
So how does that curiosity mindset sort of carry over into after college, after the master's, the MBA, CPA, hopefully everybody.
Yes.
After all of that, how does that curiosity mindset help you develop over the course of your career?
That's a really important question. I think that it's so important when you go into the workforce that you don't just go and be that worker bee, that you talk to people, that you have conversations. You, as a new graduate, coming out of school, can lend so much perspective that others who have been working may not see. And so every voice is important. And so I think that it's important to even say, yes, I know I have. I've said yes when I wasn't 100% sure how I was going to navigate, a project. But
That's how we have this podcast.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
Exactly. But even in the context of saying yes, having a conversation with someone who may ask you to do something that's not familiar, and you can say, yes, this is something that has definitely piqued my curiosity. Very interested to push this forward. I understand that others may not have, done this or approached this, so I'm going to look to all of you to, help me in this process, and then together you maybe can innovate within your firm, your company, whatever setting you're in. So.
Right. Does yes sometimes make you feel like an outlier? Because maybe everybody, like you're going a little bit against the grain a little bit. I'm just curious. It has for me, so I'm curious to know, has it happened to you in your career?
Oh yeah, I remember.
That was a quick yes.
Yeah.
No hesitation.
Yes.
I remember taking on new projects, and folks have tried it in different ways, several ways, and they're like, you know what, we think we're done with this. But AJ, you know what, she always says yes. Let's give it one more try and see if
she can pull us off. No, that's good. That's good to know.
Yeah, but it's nice because I think that curiosity mindset brings a sense of freshness to conversations.
Yeah,
excellent.
So a obstacle that I know everybody faces, right? Be you early in your career, mid-career, at the peak of your career, at any state, is this feeling of how do you actually get those conversations started, right? And even more so for college graduates, students, how do they approach those conversations? Because obviously, as an intern, as a first year, as somebody early in your accounting career, you don't want to be seen as being too pushy, right? Or too aggressive. So in terms of any more sort of nuanced advice for sort of that cohort, trying to have that curiosity and to get involved?
Yes. I will say, it's not always embraced, so that's number one. But it's important to keep that, even when it's not embraced. Like, I remember very early on in my career, some people would say, well, it is the way it is. Like,
this is how we do it.
Yeah,
right?
That's the way that we do it here, right?
That's how it is.
Right.
And that's okay, too. You want to understand the environment. And I think that when a recent grad comes out of school, they can ask questions, right?
Yep.
They can say, oh, why is this the process? I want to learn, I want to understand the inner workings of how we operate, right? And I think that can go a long way. And if someone says it's just the way that it's always been, someone else may have a different perspective. And so I think that it's important, with a hybrid work situation, I think it's really important to forge genuine relationships and try to get to know the managers, try to get to know the people who have been there before you. Even if it's in a hybrid situation and you're on Zoom, don't be afraid to, raise your hand, submit a question, whatever the case may be. I think it's so important. We have multi-generations throughout our workforce now, and that's not going away. And so I think that, it's just the genuine presence, right? And so you're not asking to necessarily buck the system, but you want to understand, like, how does your role fit into the larger framework.
Yeah, that's interesting. And to piggyback off of that into our next question, really about, so we talked about that curiosity. We talked about how sometimes you can feel like a bit of an outlier. But I think students are very interested on the team dynamics, about how, and you've worked in a lot of collaborative environments, and you've created them and you stimulated them as well. How do you tell a young professional, how do they contribute positively to the team dynamics and still have their curiosity a little bit going? But to your point, I walk into a place, I don't want to be the person that they're like, okay, this guy got to get out of here. The first day, he wants to change everything around here. But
that's what no one said about me, actually, when you first met me.
So in that case, right, what advice would you give a student coming in to really be a part of those team dynamics?
Sometimes with current graduates, recent graduates, they're not afforded the conversations at the top that were had prior to joining a team. So you may have like your senior leaders who will say, let's put so and so on the team, and you just show up and you're on the team and you're supposed to work this project. So I think that another skill that's important is active listening. So don't just, ask questions for the
Just to
sake
be
of asking questions. Listen to what's happening. Let's say it's a specific engagement, what have you. Listen, do research, do as much as you can to be a strong contributor on the team. And if you see where there are opportunities to contribute,
then you make that.
Hop in.
right. Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Go ahead, Jim.
Excellent points, AJ. No, because Lawrence, on every episode of our podcast so far, every single guest has always pointed that out. How
Yeah.
important it is to be, one, curious, but to two, be sort of genuinely interested
Right.
Yes.
in how the enterprise works, right? Be it
Yes.
accounting, be it
Right.
marketing, be it AI, be it anything.
Right.
How it works, and to then be able to communicate with your teammates.
Absolutely.
And that's very, very consistent
Yeah.
across every episode.
Wow.
So that's the key takeaway so far.
Yeah, for the whole season, I think, for the most part. Yeah, I agree. AJ, you've been recognized as a ROI influencer and a leader of color in the industry. How has diversity influenced your leadership style, and what steps do you think the accounting profession can take to foster greater diversity, inclusion, and build sort of a stronger pipeline for CPAs? Accounting is big in our business school.
Yes.
Sean being one of the leaders in that space. But how do we?
I told Lawrence to also drop in the pipeline. Just because we got to talk about it. We're
we
here
gotta talk
at
about
the
it.
NJCPA.
No,
talking to the
absolutely.
CEO. We
Right.
gotta ask about it.
And we're always talking to students about, like, not to your point, being curious about everything. Like, okay, you don't necessarily have to stay in New York. You'd be curious about going to New Jersey, going someplace else. So how do you look at that from that perspective?
Okay, so I will address my personal perspective. So as a Black woman leader, I'm the first Black woman to lead a state CPA society. That doesn't. Thank
You didn't know it comes with applause.
Yeah, it comes with applause. They got a whole laugh track too for later.
It comes with applause.
It's a pro operation here.
Well, thank you. And it's not something that we talk about every day, but when you think about the reality of that, it's important to really just, for me and my journey, I respect diversity of perspective, right? That's so important to me, regardless of who you are.
Yep.
And I think that in the workforce, when we talk about culture and we talk about authenticity and we talk about retention of talent, even if DEI specific initiatives fade away, I think that it's important that everyone feels that they have a voice in the environment. So, I think that when we look at accounting or we look at any recent graduates, from your business school as an example, we need to touch as many bright, talented students as possible, regardless of what they look like. Because they bring unique experiences, diversity of perspective, and all of that is so important. And then specifically to our pipeline, there are young people out there who have never been exposed to a CPA or someone in business. And so for us, our efforts are to go out there and to introduce what accounting can do for you, yourself, your community, just the overall impact in business, and when we talk about our economy, and that they can have a place, in the profession. And so I think that that's really important, to understand as a whole.
I think what I hear you saying, AJ, is that regardless of what the titles are, it's underwritten by just diversity of perspective, and that we bring everybody to the table. We give everybody access to these kinds of opportunities. So, I love that.
Yeah, and so excellent points, AJ. And having the best people, regardless of their background or their home address.
Right.
I mean, that's the real thing.
That's
right. For any business, they want the best people.
Right.
Period. And so now, pivoting to an area that I'm obviously very, very passionate about. How do you stay updated on all of the tools and trends, be it be it blockchain, crypto, AI, metaverse, Gen AI,
Yeah.
any of these trends that are impacting the CPA field, the pipeline, and also how firms operate, right? How they manage their teams. How do you stay updated?
Well, we talk.
Thank you, AJ.
So, you know, it's important. So I like to have conversations about the practical use of, you know, technology in firms and companies, how that's shaping decisions. So I have lots and lots of conversations with our various stakeholders, our members, you know, academia, as well as firm leaders, reading, you know, as much as I can on just the state of technology and where that's leading us. We also talk about it internally as an organization. It's because we want to make sure that where we can streamline our processes to best support members and provide the best member experience, we want to make sure that we understand that our technology is aligned. So we recently had a discussion around AI with a couple of folks, and we talked about how we could, you know, start to test it internally, and we'll come back together as a team, and we'll talk about any challenges, any successes, and try to apply that, because we know that technology, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, there's considerations that everybody needs to think about, from nonprofits to, you know, businesses, for-profit, public companies, you name it, and it's going to touch all of us.
Right.
And so I think it's really important to never to not be in a bubble when it comes around that, even if you're not as versed as, you know, Sean here.
Exactly.
Thank you again, AJ. Thank you again.
No, I think it goes back to your curiosity that you started from the very, very beginning, and being curious as an organization too, not just as individuals, but being curious as an organization. Yeah.
And also, you know, one of the points that I really like about AJ and her style is that it isn't overly focused on any one sort of shiny object or any one track. And I do think that is reflective of your past experiences, right? In management and sort of policy aspects. So having that background, and then you coming into our world, right? You know, fully into our world, which is exciting, Lawrence.
I'm with you, Sean.
How does that view how you analyze the trends that are underway in accounting and finance? How does that management background sort of influence your views on this subject?
Yeah, great question. I would say my background, you know, we were always taught to research, right? To understand trends. So from a policy perspective, you know, I look at accounting, the profession, what's happening nationally across states, including our own, right? And how we can have impact. And then I think about it, you know, from an internal standpoint, like if there are changes, we just had our election yesterday, right? So we have to think about policy changes there, and how that impacts someone's ability to do work, right? And what that means then for your clients and the people who you serve. So all of that, you know, is a trickle-down effect, and we need to be aware of the external drivers, right, impacting the profession, and then also internally, you know, to the conversation we just had around technology. How do organizations then respond to that and prepare for that, right?
So it almost sounds like, going back to your earlier point, to not be in a bubble.
Yes.
Right? Be it a policy bubble, be it a tech bubble, be it an accounting bubble.
Yes.
But if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, which all of us are really, you know, it's important to analyze the external factors, analyze the tools that are out there, and then ultimately figure out how to make better business choices.
Absolutely. 100%.
Excellent. AJ, let's go back a little bit, and I want to talk about one unexpected career challenge that helped you grow the most. If you can, it may be a combination of some, but if you can pinpoint maybe one or two, and then because I think this will help our students understand how to take those kind of challenges and turn them into opportunities.
Sure.
So if you could kind of talk to us a little bit about that, how that turned a challenge into an opportunity.
Well, one comes to mind, it's when you fundamentally have differences with, that are different than your leadership.
This is good.
This is a good one. This is a good one. Lawrence and I are going to need this at some point, especially Lawrence, though.
Yeah, this may be for me, especially me, Sean.
And so I remember specifically, I was already on the senior leadership team, and I just remember hearing some of the conversations, and I didn't raise my hand in front of everyone, but I did go back and I said I have some concerns about
X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, X, Y, and Z in the direction, and I could just see the look.
Like the
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, but it was in that moment that really defined me.
You.
Right? Not them.
Yep.
Me.
Yep.
That if I have a concern, I feel that I need to express it, especially being on the senior leadership team, right? Because I think it's so important.
Did you feel a sense of responsibility, AJ?
I did,
Not only
yeah.
to yourself, but like just as being in this leadership circle,
Right.
did you feel a sense of responsibility?
100%. Yeah, 100%. And so for me, I feel like that was the point where I knew that, I have a friend, and we talk about ethical leadership. And when you feel like that drive, internally, and to say something because it's just something is just not right, you could risk it all.
Right. I was going to say, right.
There's a chance that you could risk it all depending on the person and how they respond to you. But I would tell your students listening here today that you may be faced with a time in your career where you look and you say, this is just not the direction where I want to go.
Right.
And so I think it's important I think that's a defining moment to really think about what is important to you, and how you can have impact where you think you can make a difference. And so and to keep moving forward, and to realize that you may say something and it may not be well received, but if it's something that you think is for the good, I guess you could say, right? Sometimes you have to say it. Yeah.
And in that situation, did an opportunity come out of that, at least for you, or like when you brought this up, did
it did on a personal level. On a personal level. Because at that point, I knew that I didn't feel that I wanted to settle my beliefs to continue to be a part of that, right? So that's a huge.
That's huge, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Well said, AJ.
Yeah.
And, that example really highlights that there are going to be conversations that are going to be tough, right, in the workforce, be it ethical stuff or just hard conversations sometimes. And it ultimately comes down to how you feel as a person, as a member of the company, but also as a person, how you handle those conversations and how you deal with other people who, odds are, half the time, aren't going to see eye to eye with you.
Correct.
So to pivot, is there any hobby outside of all of this stuff, right? And you're very active here.
Yes.
I always see you meeting firm leaders, trade associations, which is awesome. Is there anything outside of work that you're passionate about that folks might be surprised?
I think folks would be surprised to know that I myself am an entrepreneur, so I have a beauty product.
Okay.
And That's
awesome.
Yeah,
I didn't we know this before?
I'm making a mental note of that because we have students in our entrepreneur program that are exploring things like that. So
Yeah.
I may dial back at you, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I have a beauty product, and it all started because of what I saw was a need.
Right.
And so I did some research, and I formulated a product for hair to support hair growth and all of that.
Wow.
And now I'm like in the stages of, getting some help around that because I am so busy.
Right. I was going to say this.
There's no way I can like
juggle both
just
full time. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's incredible. Though.
Yeah. Yeah, and then
Amazing.
I love to travel, and I'm also a part of the oldest food and wine society
Oh.
in the world.
The oldest food and wine society.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting.
I mean, it's like 2 or 3
I'll come back
things.
to you
Yeah,
off the
yeah.
air about that. This is a wine part.
No,
But
there's like 2 or 3 things missing in the bio.
I was gonna say,
every time we
Lawrence
get,
read
when we
this
get
out
her
for like
back
30
here,
minutes, it felt like.
Exactly. Wow. No, that's good stuff. That's good stuff. I'm going to ask you my last question, but I am interested in something as we start talking. I see your name, and then I see in parentheses AJ, and as I walked in, I was like, "Oh, AJ will be downstairs soon," and I like the nickname, the handle. Talk to me about that's my handle. I like AJ. Talk to me a little bit about that. Just curious.
So back in high school, I had a friend, and she called me AJ, and she said, "Can I call you AJ?" I said, "No."
I hope she's watching this podcast.
She would be very surprised to see everybody call me AJ. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, and he said, my friends, some of my friends call me AJ. And I said, "Oh, okay."
Some of his friends call him AJ.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we have the same,
initials.
And when someone asked if they could call me AJ, I said, "Yeah, it's my initials. It represents me." Yeah.
Right.
And so my team at the time, they said, "Oh, we can call you AJ?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's fine."
Right.
So,
and it just kind of stuck.
it just stuck. And then members, they call and ask for AJ or whatever. So I have it there. So it's
when
okay. It's
when I
fine
got the
to call me
info, I was
AJ.
like, I see the name, I see this in parentheses AJ,
Yeah.
so I was like, okay, this is cool. I just wanted to know.
Yes,
Just wanted to get a little
100%.
insight information on that. All right, here's our last question. Should I say it, Sean? This is my question.
Yeah, you can say
Oh.
it, Lawrence. We go through this every episode. I get to do the introduction, which is fine, but Lawrence gets the best
get the
questions
last
at the end.
Okay.
All right. There are 3 metaphorical bones in business. There's your backbone, which is decision making, your wishbone, which is luck or serendipity, and your funny bone, which is your sense of humor. We know that you use all of these in your career. Talk to us about what you're most comfortable with. Which one of those bones are you most comfortable with that's easy for you in that sense?
Can I just say that I think it's important. The backbone is important
Yep.
for your decision making. And here's why. You won't be prepared for those lucky circumstances, the wishbone, right, without it.
Yeah.
But it's important to not take yourself too seriously. So
Right.
you need the funny bone.
So when we get this question, right, everybody like strategically moves through that question nice. All these bones play a role with each other. Everybody
it's
does
like a
that.
whole
And
master's
then
thesis.
I always pry a little bit like, yep, I totally know that. Which one are you that comes just naturally to you? Which one of those bones? So we know you use all 3. Which one just comes naturally to you?
The backbone.
The backbone.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All accountants say the same.
Dude, it's just how we roll, man. It's just how we roll.
Well, thank you so much, AJ. This
Thank
was
you.
an amazing
You guys
interview.
were
I had a
great
lot
time.
of fun.
Thank you.
AJ, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on Leap Into Business.
Oh,
Yes.
thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Hope to have you again.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yes.
Here we go.